Hi, welcome to Bible Talk. Today we are going to be reading Genesis chapter 7, which is the beginning of the flood. I don't know why, but I'm excited to get to this, probably because it's a story that I know, but I'm reading it with a different lens now that I am going through these different ways of seeing, like, what does this chapter say about God and what are his promises that are in here. So let's go ahead and get started. Hopefully you have, I don't know why I keep forgetting to say this. This is Bible Talk, where we talk about the Bible. And I am going through the Bible in chronological order, in order of events. So we are in Genesis 7. Hopefully you have your Bible. You can read along with me in the version that you prefer. I'm going to be reading out of the NCV, which is the New Century Version. I don't know why. I just like that version. I like the way that they word certain things. It sounds more of like a book, like a story, whereas the New King James Version is more poetic, and I like that more for memorizing. I like the NLT version, but I am in the NCV right now. But read any version that you prefer, and it's great if you have a different version than the NCV, because then you can see the different words that they are using and the slight differences that there are in your version. Okay, so Genesis chapter 7. Then the Lord said to Noah, I have seen that you are the best person among the people of this time, so you and your family can go into the boat. Take with you 7 pairs, each male with its female, of every kind of clean animal, and take 1 pair, each male with its female, of every kind of unclean animal. Take 7 pairs of all the birds of the sky, each male with its female. This will allow all the animals to continue living on the earth after the flood. 7 days from now I will send rain on the earth. It will rain 40 days and 40 nights, and I will wipe off from the earth every living thing that I have made. Noah did everything the Lord commanded him. Noah was 600 years old when the flood came. He and his wife and his sons and their wives went into the boat to escape the waters of the flood. The clean animals, the unclean animals, the birds, and everything that crawls on the ground came to Noah. They went into the boat in groups of 2, male and female, just as God had commanded Noah. 7 days later, the flood started. When Noah was 600 years old, the flood started. On the 17th day of the 2nd month of the year, the underground springs split open, and the clouds in the sky poured out rain. The rain fell on the earth for 40 days and 40 nights. On the same day, Noah and his wife, his sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, and their wives went into the boat. They had every kind of wild and tame animal, every kind of animal that crawls on the earth, and every kind of bird. Every creature that had the breath of life came to Noah in the boat in groups of 2. 1 male and 1 female of every living thing came, just as God had commanded Noah. Then the Lord closed the door behind him. Water flooded the earth for 40 days, and as it rose, it lifted the boat off the ground. The water continued to rise, and the boat floated on it above the earth. The water rose so much that even the highest mountains under the sky were covered by it. It continued to rise until it was more than 20 feet above the mountains. All living things that moved on the earth died. This included all the birds, tame animals, wild animals, and creatures that swarm on the earth, as well as all human beings. So everything on dry land that had the breath of life in it died. God destroyed from the earth every living thing that was on the land, every man, animal, crawling things, and birds of the sky. All that was left was Noah and what was with him in the boat, and the waters continued to cover the earth for 150 days. Okay, so to paraphrase Genesis chapter 7, God tells Noah, you are the best person around, which, what a compliment to get from God. And he said, because the earth is wicked, I'm going to destroy it. But because I have been pleased with you because you are the best person around, I'm going to spare you. It's you, your wives, your sons, your 3 sons, and their wives. And he tells Noah that he being Noah, is to bring 2 of every kind of animal onto this boat, or this ark with him. And they need to be male and female. And he says that it's 2 of every kind of unclean animals, but of the clean animals, he's to bring 7 pairs of clean animals and 7 pairs of all the birds. And my theory is that the reason that it is 2 pairs of unclean animals is because the unclean animals are going to continue to spread. Once they get off the boat, they need to be able to start over. The unclean animals need to do that as well, but we also need clean animals. We need the clean animals during that time for sacrifices as well. And so I believe that's why there are more clean animals commanded to be brought onto the boat than unclean animals, because you don't sacrifice the unclean, you only sacrifice the clean animals. That is a theory. It doesn't necessarily say that in the Bible, but that is what my guess is. So Noah builds this boat, his family gets on, everything happens the way the Lord commanded. The animals come and they get on the boat in pairs, just as he commanded it to happen, male and female. And then Noah and his wife and his sons are in the boat, and I can't remember if they say it in this chapter or the next one, but the Lord closes the door for them, and the rain falls, and it rains 40 days and 40 nights, but it says that the world is covered for 150 days. So they are on this boat a really long time, and I believe we're going to see much longer than that when we read Genesis chapter 8. But that is a paraphrase of what Genesis 7 is. I did take a couple of notes, one of them being like, how amazing is it for God to call you the best man of your time? I mean, that's amazing. And then I talked about the pairs of the animals. Also, it took a whole week to get all of the animals onto the ark. And Noah didn't have to collect them. They came to him, but it took a whole week for them to come. I believe it says in here of when Noah, on the 17th day of the 2nd month of the year, that talks about when the springs came up. But it says before that, they went into the boat in groups of 2. This is verse 9. They went into the boat in groups of 2, just as God commanded Noah, and 7 days later the flood started. So that's where I got that it took a whole week for the animals to get on, unless they got on and then they were on for 7 days and then the flood started. But I think that as soon as God closed the door, the flood started. Hold on one second, my phone's ringing. Sorry about that. Phone call from my husband. Okay, so trying to get my train of thought back here. So yes, the Lord did close the door, and it says that he decides the exact time that the rain is going to be coming. It's in God's timing, not in our timing. We're not the ones, human beings, or Noah and his family are not the ones that close the door. They're not the ones that decide, okay, that's all the animals. It is God's timing. And so he's the one that closes the door. Then the rains fall for 150 days, which is 5 months. Well, it rains for 40 days, but it covers the earth for 5 months. And Noah was on the boat for a really long time. So that's all that I have in my notes that I have gotten. So let's look at what Genesis 7 has to say about God. In verse 3, it says, "Take 7 pairs of all the birds of the sky, each male with its female. This will allow all these animals to continue living on the earth after the flood." And so I put that God preserves his creation. He wants them to continue after the flood. He is preserving it. He's not only preserving the humans that he created, but the animals as well. And God decides the perfect time. And that is verse 16, where it's talking about how the Lord closed the door behind them. And that is all that I have for what the Bible says about God, or not the Bible, but Genesis chapter 7. In Genesis 7, verses 2 and 3, it says, "Take 7 pairs of every kind of clean animal and birds, and 1 pair of unclean animals." This is a command that he is giving Noah of what to do, specifically what to do, which animals to bring on, male and female, but also the groupings of them, of 1 pair versus 7 pairs. There is one promise that I found in Genesis 7, and that is in verse 4, that he says everything will be wiped from the earth. This is a promise. It's not a good promise, but it is a good promise because he's getting rid of all of the bad and he's going to start fresh and make everything good again, because humans have just destroyed it with so much evil and so much wickedness. So it seems sad that he's killing everything, and his heart is broken that he has to do this, but he has to do it. He has to do it. He has to cleanse the earth. In Genesis 7 is Noah's family. They talk about Noah, who's 600 when the flood comes. They talk about his wife and his sons, Shem, Ham, Japheth, and his sons' wives. So that's really all that we're looking at in Genesis chapter 7. And I think part of the reason, because I saw the movie Noah, and the one with Russell Crowe and Jennifer Connelly, and I did not like that movie. It does not follow what the Bible is saying at all, especially like none of the sons had wives. And in here it says over and over again, his sons, Shem, Ham, Japheth, and their wives. And it always says, and their wives, and each of their wives. So, I didn't like that the movie made such a big deal about them not having wives and jealousy happening. I didn't like that what was considered evil was the eating of animals. I mean, like, yes, the world is sinful, but later God provides animals as food for Noah's family. And I didn't like, there was so much about the movie that I didn't like that was so completely off. Even the order of the sons being born is off. So if this is your first time reading the story of Noah and you've seen that movie, now you know why so many Christians did not like that movie, because it is so completely off from what the actual story is. And it could have been so good. There was such high potential for it. Anyways, getting off on a ramp. That is the only people that they talk about in Genesis 7. So let's go ahead and look at the locations in the Bible. They talk about the whole world again. They don't talk about any specific place other than the earth was covered by water. And I found it amazing that the mountains, the highest mountain was 20 feet below how high the waters were. And just imagining that's just crazy. That's like Waterworld. There's just no dry land anywhere. Yeah, it's just amazing. Amazing to think about. The timeline that we've got creation of the world, the fall of man, and now we have the flood. Just to summarize it all, like, very, very quickly, that's what we have. That is all that I have for Genesis chapter 7. Genesis chapter 8, we're talking about what happens once the flood ends. So I'm real excited for that. Hope you guys will join me tomorrow for Genesis chapter 8. And I hope that you are enjoying this Bible talk. If you have any comments, anything to add to what I've said, please put that in the comments. I'll read them. And I will hopefully see you tomorrow.